So if you're going to have this conversation with your senior loved one about help that they may need, that you perceived that you think they need help, or talking about services that you may want to bring in. So in the last video, we talked very specifically about phrases you want to avoid or things not to say, right? Emotional responses that are going to cause a challenging response for the most part. Well, my name is Vitaly, and welcome to In-Home Senior Care. I'm so glad you're here. And so in this video, we're going to dive into how do we have that conversation in a productive way. And so we're going to talk about language that is productive and that lowers defenses. And not so much specific phrases that you would memorize, right? Not magic words. It's a tone that shifts from control to support, right? So being aware of how am I coming across, what's lowering the emotional aspect of you want to get this done, and so you feel like you maybe amp up the pressure. This is the total opposite of that. The goal is cooperation, not compliance. So think of it that way, right? Your goal is not to get them to comply with your wishes, but your goal is to reach a cooperative agreement in terms of what's going to be productive and good for them, of course, right? But it's also going to be a help to you as a caregiver. So number one, lead with their goals, right? And what do I mean by that? We're talking about everyone has some goals for whatever they're looking forward to in the next week, in the next month, next year, right? Instead of saying you need help, right, which is the obvious, they do need help, and you've recognized it, you've seen the signs, you see the things you might actually be in the thick of it, helping them with things, and so they do need that. But instead of saying you need help, which will cause them to emotionally respond, try saying something like, what would make things feel easier for you right now? So it's an open-ended question. It's not a yes and no. It's allowing them to speak into the situation and allowing them to be able to maybe ponder a bit, process a bit, and go, okay, what do I think? Another phrase is there anything that feels harder than it used to? You're inviting them into an honest conversation without setting up a scenario to where they feel like they have to defend themselves and where they have to maybe minimize and maybe hide things a bit because they feel attacked with what you're kind of saying, I see this, or whatnot. It's inviting honesty, and it's preserving their dignity and allowing them to stay in control so that they can drive this conversation. Again, these aren't phrases you have to memorize to say them specifically, although it might be helpful to you. So if you want to make a cue card for yourself to be able to just remind yourself of what you're trying to get at, because what you're really asking is open-ended questions. You're inviting them into that process of thinking about and recognizing what's actually going on. Number two, scenario or script or phrase, whatever you want to call it, is positioning help as a tool. Most of us don't really want to be needy or feeling like we need help all the time. And so a phrase like, if we brought someone in just a few hours a week, not to take over, but just to make things lighter, invite them into a conversation. What do you think if we did that? Let them share their emotions. Let them open up to you in that safe environment as you're having this conversation that's not emotionally charged. Let them tell you maybe what concerns or what fears they might have around that. The key phrase in this would be, so you can stay in your home longer. So as we talk about aging in place, we talk about most people want to remain living independent in their own homes as long as they can. It is a goal, right? So that's what we're talking about. So you can stay longer in your home. So we don't have to think about a plan B, because it's the easiest solution is for you to be able to bring in care right into the home. Okay, number three, make the option of temporary, because we all want to have kind of an escape hatch. We go to the store, we buy something. What do we ask? What's the return policy? What if I don't like this product? What if it doesn't work the way I intended to? There's so many times that we search out a software, a process, or a product, and we have a problem that we're trying to fix with what we're purchasing. And in the process of getting it, and as we use it, we're like, it's just not fitting what I needed it for. That's why retail stores have return policies, because it lowers the barrier to the purchase, because somebody is more confident to make the purchase because they know that if they get the product and it doesn't actually serve the purpose that they wanted from it, they will be able to return it. In this case, use that same concept, make it temporary. Let's just try this for a couple of weeks. If you hate it, we stop. So this is actually one of the conversations that we love to have in the home when we meet with families, and usually it's one of the kids, maybe a daughter and mom or the parents, and it's a very typical conversation. I would say 90+% of our potential new clients, when they invite us into the home for a care consultation, the resistance is fairly high from the standpoint of the care receiver. They're not on board. They're nervous. They don't know what this is all about, and there's a big reason for that, because home care is a little bit mysterious in a sense of like, how does this actually work? And usually it gets, the hang up is, well, who's this caregiver that you have? You know, you say you have great caregivers. Well, what if I don't like that caregiver, right? So there's all these different things. And so using that temporary component and the ability to say, well, we've tried this and, you know, this is not working. We, like as a company, we have a 2-week notice to terminate services. So in much of the sense of the word, our services are always potentially temporary for a client that uses us, meaning somebody can use us for years and can say, okay, well, I've got arrangements made for plan B, and here's my 2-week notice. Or it can be as simple as we sign a client and the next day they can call us and say, okay, 2 weeks from today, that'll be my last day. I'm kind of done. The issue is, and why we talk about this, because usually within that first week to 2 weeks, that mystery, as I said, that kind of fills in, because now you have a caregiver that's been introduced. They get to see the whole routine of how a typical shift works. What are the things they've helped them with? And so both the client, the receiver of care, as well as a daughter or the caregiver, has now had an opportunity to kind of witness the whole process and how it works. Now, all of a sudden, oh, wow, well, they helped me with this and this and this, and there's all these different things. But that was such a huge barrier to entry for that potential client, because it is scary to think about letting someone into your home. And again, keep in mind, we're talking about helping with things like bathing, talking about helping with toileting, with dressing assistance, very personal things that it's hard to think about having a stranger coming into the home and helping with that. The reason that the whole make it temporary works is because it reduces perceived permanence, and it feels it's reversible, right? Well, what if I hate this whole thing? Or what if I just really don't like my caregiver? So it allows them to feel more comfort with the idea that we can undo this if we have to, if we really don't like it, or if it's not working well for you. Script number 4 is align as a team. I don't want to take control. That's a phrase. I don't want to take your ability to make decisions away from you. I want us to figure this out together, right? Because you're inviting them into the process. You're giving them a seat at the table. You're allowing them to control their own destiny. You're not taking that away from them. And I'm on your side, right? I want to make sure you're okay. Unity, cooperation, togetherness, it lowers resistance because they're part of the process. So maybe you're bringing in an idea that maybe that idea doesn't feel great to them. Maybe it feels a little scary. They may not even be able to tell you what they feel exactly, why they're resistant to it, but it's an unknown. And that's what the unknown brings in fear. The cooperative aspect when you're working together lowers all of that, and it builds trust so that, yeah, you're bringing something to the table that's new, that they haven't done before and they're not so sure about, but they trust you. And if you lead this discussion in that way, that trust builds because you're not trying to force something on them, but you're inviting them into the process. And then script number 5 is use shared concern. Phrases like, I'm worried about you. I can't be with you all the time. And so when I'm gone, I worry about you. I worry that you are okay, or that your needs are being met. Phrases like, I've noticed you seem more tired lately. I just want to make sure you're not carrying too much, because as that person ages, the things they used to do on a normal basis that were totally fine for them to do, well, now they might be becoming bigger burdens. Like a great example is like stripping the bed and changing linens. It's harder to do. I'm concerned about you going down to the basement to do your laundry. I don't want you to go out and get the mail, because if you slip and fall, that could be really bad. So those are observations that you talk about and you bring up. They don't feel like accusations, and that's really what you want to make sure is you control the emotional component of your conversation, and you invite them into a conversation to where you're working on this together. This conversation doesn't need to be perfect, and you don't need to go all through 5 things. Keep in mind, most things in life are, when we learn by repetition. When you learn to ride a bike, the first time you rode it, it looked pretty bad. and then maybe you fell a couple of times, and then slowly you got better and better. And so this is the point here. Like, you want to build trust by repeating some of these conversations and continuing to build on what you've already accomplished, where you've already got some buy-in, got some agreement, and then continue to do that. Main thing about this is that it needs to be calm. At any point during this conversation, if you start to kind of veer, whether it's them or you veer into the ditch of emotion and kind of negative emotion, pause that and say, we don't need to solve this today. I just wanted to have a productive conversation with you. Know that I want you to be in control. I want you to make good decisions. But as a caregiver, I also want to know that you're getting what you need, and I can't always give that to you. And that's why I want to keep having these conversations so that we can have a good plan together to make sure that you can continue living where you're at, that you can continue aging in place. Again, we'd love to talk with you. If you're in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, we're located in Burnsville. We would love to come out and visit with you. We provide a no cost, no obligation care consultation right in the home, and we will answer all your questions, help you to understand better who we are, how we function, and how everything works. We'd love to obviously provide services to your senior loved one, but we're not always a fit for one reason or another. And so we will always play an amazing resource for you to help connect you to the most appropriate provider or situation that fits whatever individually as a family you're needing and what you're going through and what you're looking for. Please comment on the video. Let us know what you think, good, bad. Please ask questions if you'd like to see content about something specific in terms of caregiving or senior help issues. We'd love to see that. Otherwise, share this with someone that needs to see it, and please subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.